Why do some parents mind if their kids aren't at the top of the class in school? Probably BC college tuition is so expensive and they need their kids to get scholarship money. I was always told to not come back home if I got less than 92 at any given grading. Now they did not actually lock me out of my house, but there was always the threat of homelessness or everything being taken away from me if I did not perform well academically. Now that I am grown up, I realize they were probably bluffing to encourage me in their fucked up Balkan way. Still hated it when I would come home and tell them I got a 96 and they would scold me why I lost 4 points and compare me to my more popular and more successful peers. I would pretend to be already asleep when my parents came home, so they couldn't ask me about my grades. In result, I have passed through my entire academic career with straight A's and a few BS. I was shamed for the BS lol. But in return I have horrible self-esteem, and I measure success with numbers. Inadvertently the education system ended up crumbling in my country anyways, and I went abroad to finish my education. So in the end their psychological abuse of holding stuff over my head and threatening to take things away all the time and damaging my psychology irreversibly did not pay off, as the grades did not transfer accurately to abroad. I am a proponent of good enough. Is it better for my daughter to have a solid 3.5, be happy and mentally healthy, with time for something else she enjoys outside of school, or to be an anxious mess with a 4.0 who doesn't function outside of school work? My parents didn't care and I burned myself out for the top anyway. Not worth it. Okay, mostly not worth it. Did get some tuition discounts from some merit scholarships. Because parents aren't concerned with the national average of what a good GPA is. They are concerned specifically with their own child, what GPA they are capable of and how much effort they are putting in. My oldest is capable of getting a 4.0, and he'll get a 3.5 without studying or putting in any effort and time. As a parent, I should be pushing him to go after the 4.0 rather than spend every waking moment playing video games and goofing off. If he were the kind of kid that, despite studying daily and putting in extra effort, topped out at 3.0, then I would settle for the 3.0. It's probably better to have a realistic expectation, because in my experience kids with a 4.0 GPA and other gifted kids tend to sputter out later in life. Sure, they did good in school, but in the employment world they are not as with it. Because they view their kids as objects to achieve what they never could, such as state championship in football, 4.0 GPA, etc. Depends on the parents. In the case of mine, it was a combination of denial of the obstacles I had both, and a deep-seated desire to maintain a certain social image. Mother, I got shamed at for every B they found out about, even when it was the highest grade in the class on a particular test assignment and I had been excited. Burned into my memory is the time I was told that only an A is worth anything, and that if I get anything less than an A, it's the same as me getting an F. By denial of obstacles, I mean, for example, if I was struggling with something due to autism, my dad would say, "No, you're not, just quit making excuses and get it done already," and my mother explicitly decided I didn't really need my ADHD meds because I was doing so well while on them, so she refused to refill my prescription anymore and started claiming I don't really have ADHD and just needed to work harder. Some of the most successful people I know right now are people whose parents didn't give a fuck what grades they got in school lol, and they didn't get the best grades. I'm talking professional designers, artists, business owners, etc. Not to be sad on the internet, but I graduated top 5 of my school, got into every university I applied to, finished multiple degrees, and it got me absolutely nowhere in life. For me, as were expected, A was a better work on that, and anything below that was a crisis. Scolding, grounding, do it again, etc. I think their thought process was he just needs to work hard for 12 years in school and 4 years in college, and then he'll be set for 60 years. But of course, if you spend 16 of your most formative years in high stress over every assignment under fear of punishment, you don't end up as a well-adjusted, successful adult. You grow up as an anxiety-ridden adult whose primary motivation in school and work is to avoid punishment, and you perform to maximize grades, not to develop successful habits. It's almost always the parent's ego. Right now we have a crisis of young adults who were told their whole lives they were gifted and talented, and now we've thrown them into the workforce to do mundane work. My eldest figured out the GT program was just extra homework and took up his weekends, so after a year he refused to participate. I had to take him out of the program. When I took my older son out of GT, so many moms asked as I was crazy. I said no, I am just respecting my kids' wishes. I realized then how GT is really for the ego of the parents. My youngest liked it and stayed in this nut game until he graduated college. My older kid knows how to draw boundaries around his time and work, and my younger one does not. Who is most happy with career and work and who is most miserable? The happy one rejected GT. The miserable one did not. A lot of it is really what you feel like the kid should be able to do. If a kid is smart, capable, and could get all A's with little effort, parents should push them to do that. If a kid has learning disabilities, has trouble learning, and struggles even with hard work, then they lower their expectations and maybe are really happy with all BS and CS. If you're insisting that kid who can barely get CS being a student, you have a problem. I care about effort and seeing a desire to learn more than I care about the actual grade. Some students get burnt out by focusing too much on grades during their high school years, and unless your child is hoping to attend an Ivy League school, high school grades don't matter as much as many parents think they do. Don't get me wrong, they matter some, but most state schools will accept a student with a GPA over 2.5. So to my way of thinking, learning solid study skills and keeping an interest in learning alive is more important than grades. Some parents take keeping up with the Jones way too seriously. Their ego is more important than their children's mental well-being. It's very sad that we create these anxious little ones that have a less than enjoyable childhood. Some parents lie vicariously through their children and try to make up for their own failures through them. My parents are immigrants and are very short of stature, poor at English, antisocial even in their home country, visibly colored, and generally command no respect. I love them, but it's objectively true. They've clawed their way up to middling office jobs through a disproportionate amount of work and foresaw a similar future for me and my siblings. They believe, very justifiably, that only through their credentials and education could they compete with other workers who have way more soft skills. I once taught a student who, at 14 years old, was producing work that would have put her top of the class if she was 18 years old. This kid was truly incredible. At parent-teacher night, when I was raving about how amazing she is and the quality of her work, her parents didn't want to hear it. They just wanted to know what she was doing wrong and how she could be better. My mom is incredibly smart. High school valedictorian, scholarships to a school in Massachusetts. No, not that one. Not that one either. Or that one. Yes, that one. Massachusetts has a ton of universities. My dad isn't that kind of smart, but still became an engineer because of what he learned in the military. I pretty much gave up by 5th grade and it was a tough time trying to catch up. Eventually my parents learned that the best I'd probably do in school was a handful of BS, NCS, with maybe a here and there. Meanwhile, I remember way back in 3rd or 4th grade I had a project where everyone was teamed up with a partner. We got a C, and when I asked if he wanted to take the homework home, he shook his head and gave me a look of "Are you crazy?" So I just threw it away. They might place more value on getting into schools with a good reputation. Perhaps they are status-oriented people.